welcome to the Dadhammer podcast, a casual Warhammer show where we discuss all things 40k, Age of Sigmar, and literally everything else Warhammer related. So whether you are a beginner, a seasoned veteran, or wherever you are, we appreciate you and glad you're joining us on your Warhammer journey. I am your host, David the Warboss, and with me today is my friend Medicae Steve. Steve, how we doing?
Howdy. Doing good, buddy. Kind of easing into this working for the weekend. Well, I guess it's going to be a long weekend because we're on the spring break after this. So looking forward to that. Can get out of town for a little bit and hang out with the family and kids and just not worry about much of anything. It's a good feeling.
It is a good feeling. I'm definitely feeling the relaxation coming up, and that, you know, it's well, ironically, it's spring break for our children. You know, my kids are on spring break, and they're like, "Dad, do you have to work?" I'm like, "Yeah, but not this time because I'm actually taking some time off." But usually, yes, Dad has to work even when there's vacation for the kids. So, yeah. Well, we have a great show for you. We've got a couple of big topics to discuss right on the heels of the Warhammer World Anniversary. Kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't really think that they were going to showcase new models, and that, it was cool. So we have a bit of a surprise bit of content where they showed off quite a bit. Got some orc news, which was always exciting for me. So we'll talk through the Warhammer World Anniversary models and releases. And then we'll also transition into kind of a state of Warhammer Plus, where the service is, our thoughts on it, even though we're both subscribers and I know we both like the service. There's some implications from the models that were just recently released. Some of those are more Warhammer Plus related. And we just have some thoughts on where the service is today and maybe some things that they could do to improve in the future of Warhammer Plus. All right. Well, we thank you again for listening to this show. If you have any specific topics or anything that you want to mention to us, you can reach us at contact@dadhammerstudios.com. Hit us up on Instagram. Let us know what you think. And as always, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We love seeing those. So please drop us a review and let us know what you think. Okay, so let's get started with the Warhammer World Anniversary models. The very first thing that was shown off were the Custodes. And I am going to bring up here some content from the Warhammer World. They showed off this guy. Steve, I know you're a Custodes player, new Custodes player. And this guy was a shield captain, and I'm trying to read the name. The Pyrothite.
That sounds right. That's how I would pronounce it.
We'll go with that. Pyrothite spear. I was really hoping this was going to be a Votan model because it looked Votan-ish, but everyone was saying, no, it's Custodes. I'm like, you let me dream. Don't steal my dream.
Have you read some of the like internet chatter, all the comments and stuff on like Instagram? People are like, boy, that squat sure looks good in gold.
Oh, he does. I mean, he kind of looks like one. It looks like they took one of the Votan models and just reskinned it a little bit.
Yeah, he's a little thick across the chest and short in the legs. I could see that.
So, I mean, but still, a pretty cool model. It's not blowing me away. It doesn't do like amazing things for me, but you know, a new model. Steve, as a new Custodes player, what are your thoughts on this guy?
I dig. I like the Melta spear. Right, that's not been. I'm very new to Custodes. Got to brag a little bit. Finally got my first victory against a Warboss using said Custodes.
Why you got to bring it up? It's too soon. It's too soon.
It's soon, but it feels so good, and it's just a good thing. Just right. It's just perfect timing. They did it for me.
Okay.
But I think a Melta spear is pretty awesome. I think it's kind of cool. You know, one thing about these guys, at least, you know, what I've played of them and the combat patrol and stuff, they're not a very shooty army. You want to get them into combat. That's where they shine. And but this is a nice damage dealing weapon because the bolter on the spears and stuff that they have now it's just a bolter. It's nothing special, you know. I mean, bolters are bolters. This 10th edition, they're like, meh, whatever. But this, I don't know, it's pretty cool. I got mixed feelings about the big mohawk going over the back. I'm
It's
okay
given
with it.
me Fire Slayer,
Yeah.
vibes from Age of Sigmar, and
Mhm.
as when I was looking at wanting to play dwarves before the or dwarfs, sorry, I got to use the proper 40k or Warhammer version, not dwarves, dwarfs.
Yeah.
When I was looking to play dwarfs, they they were the Fire Slayer were the only ones. I couldn't
Mhm.
play. Votan didn't exist at the time, and they just were naked dwarves. Dwarfs.
Right.
Gosh, I can't. I got to get that right. But
Shirtless.
yeah, they were just short guys, and they didn't have any shirts, and they had one, the Drake, but that was it. And
Mhm.
the Mohawk is really kind of looked like they mixed the two to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I were to have this character, if I wouldn't figure out a way to trim that off, and
Trim
I
his
don't know.
Mohawk. It's just not
Yeah,
done.
I don't know. It could be gone and I wouldn't be sad at
Yeah.
all. I like the pose. The pose is great.
Pose is
Uh,
cool. It's very
Pretty dynamic.
Votan. I'm just,
I know. Maybe we speak it into existence. It'll happen.
maybe.
Um,
Are you going helmet or no helmet? Are you a helmet on the battlefield, or do you even care?
I paint some, heads up if they look all right. I like his
Hmm.
helmet though. Custodes helmets are pretty cool. When
It
you
looks like a Russell Crowe
Mhm.
gladiator helmet a little bit to me.
Yeah. And they're pretty good looking. I'm not, it just depends, man. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm done. I don't feel like painting faces and heads. So
Yeah,
we're
I hear
putting the
you.
helmet on today.
I hear you. Well, what about they also showed off the Auric
Mhm.
Champions Battle Force box, which they showed off another Battle Force box here. We'll talk about in a second, but the I thought the Battle Force stuff they only showed off at Christmas time. Like, is this a different type of release? Have they done this before? Maybe I'm just forgetting it.
No, the last one, because I remember it wasn't this past Christmas. I feel like it was the Christmas before.
Hmm.
Um, I briefly thought, I was like, Custodes would be fun to get into because the box was so much for the money, right?
Yeah, right.
I think it had a whole lot of Sisters of Silence with it. I don't it definitely didn't have that many bikes with it. Um, this is pretty good though. The bikes were good in Combat Patrol, I felt.
Yeah, they were.
I don't know. I mean, you could take this box and a Combat Patrol box like I have, and you would probably have a very close to 2,000 point army. It's pretty vanilla. There's not a
Hmm.
lot of, but it's not a huge range in their models anyway. 9 bikes, I don't know if that would be too many. That'd be a lot. But
There's a lot of
um,
bikes. Yeah.
yeah, I've got an old Rhino that I'm converting to tote the little sisters around. As I expand that army a little bit. But the Terminators are great. Those are really cool looking Terminators anyway. I think
They
those are pretty fantastic.
and of course every time I see these guys I think Flash
Mhm.
Gordon, and I know everybody else does too. It's
I
just
know. I know.
come on. But well, that's for older listeners. Anybody when did Flash Gordon come out? Was that
Oh,
70s or 80s?
jeez. Well, I think the one that we know the best, the really bad movie, was like maybe
With
the
the Queens?
70s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, that's the one I
probably
remember.
70s.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway, I mean that's the vibe that I get on this
Mhm.
one, but they do look a little plain to me. I mean, the bikes are cool,
Yeah.
that's different, but they also just don't they need a little more pop in my opinion. But I don't
There's
know what to do. I don't know what they could add to make it pop more.
Well, you have to start getting into the Forge World models to get anything much different than what you see now.
Yeah, well,
There's a couple of very old pattern dreadnoughts that you could add. But the funny thing is, they just look like a really large custody Terminator. I mean, they don't really
true.
have a much different aesthetic.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything else looks about the same. It follows their story. All that's cool. Um, there's different paint schemes you can put on them. I mean, there are different shield hosts, as you could say, so you could
Mhm.
dress them up in different colors. But yeah, they're pretty. pretty bland, but that's okay too because they're really strong, they're really tough. They're a
Yeah.
full elite army. I don't
So
know.
are you going to pick up the box, or
We'll
are you
see.
think considering it?
I'm considering it. I got other stuff to deal with. That won't be anything now because there's nothing in there that you can't get. It's not like they fly off the shelf. So I feel like I can take my time.
Yeah,
And I don't.
and that's what's weird to me is that they're
Hmm.
releasing these Battle Force boxes and they're only throwing one new model in, and
Hmm.
I mean maybe that's why they're calling them Battle Force box and not something else, not some real
Right.
big kickoff release like they've done in the past with some of the other armies where they get their own special box set, and I don't even
Yeah.
know what they call it. They may just call it a box set. Um,
Right.
that comes with a lot of new releases, and that's why they've called this a Battle Force, because that usually at Christmas time, the Battle Force boxes they're not new models. They're
Mm-mm.
existing armies, and they have a healthy discount on them, which is great.
Right.
And I think now they may have not have had of may well that's a mouthful. They may not have had. There we go. They may not have had, what the types of new models that they actually needed to
Hmm.
release in a full-fledged box set, and now they're just the Battle Force boxes. But I think it's cool that they're doing these just not at Christmas time. That's always helpful, because
Yeah.
whenever they come out at Christmas time, they sell out immediately. So it's nice to see them release something like this in the middle of the year, the early in the year rather.
And it's coincided with the Codex drop too. So
Hmm.
Dark Angels, they did the Deathwing Assault box. It looks like and we're going to cover it in a minute, the Orc and the Custodes Codex are coming out at the same time. They're
Yep.
going to have boxes. What other Codex is out? Necrons, but they didn't do a big box with that. I think they did a
Yeah.
revamped Combat Patrol. I wonder if it's just we're gonna move into that now. Like we're gonna drop you a Codex, but we're gonna provide a maybe not our best sellers, but a decently discounted box to get
Hmm.
you well on your way. Because I bet that's getting close to 1,000 points.
I would
I
agree.
mean, you could speak to the Orc one. I didn't add those up or anything, but I mean that would be a good way to drop a Codex. And the Deathwing Assault box was good for what it is. And
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because those Battle Force boxes are, highly sought after because of
mhm,
the discounts that you get with so many models. So I think that is the case here. And now that you bring that up, I'm thinking if you're a brand new player and you're wanting to get
mhm.
into an army, well, hey, buy one of these Battle Force boxes and you get, I mean, in the past, those have been like 40-50% off
Oh
if you
yeah.
were to buy them all outright. So now where they're going to get into some shenanigans is if they start doing like almost like the start collecting box where they're throwing in some
Mhm.
models that you don't really care about. We talked
Yep.
about this on our last show where, if they were really quote unquote smart, trying to really milk the customer, for all they're worth, they'd be putting in maybe 40% of the models that you want and 60% of the ones
Mhm.
that you already have. And I think they went for the opposite. Now they're doing like 90% of the models that you already have. And they're, oh, hey, here's a new guy,
Yeah.
which, whatever. I did want to get your take on the Codex. No
Uh-huh.
collector's edition. At least they haven't shown it. I assume they're coming out with one. But what do you
Hmm.
think of the cover here? I kind of like the cover. Cover looks kind of cool.
I can only assume that that's what's his name? Trajan Valoris. The They don't have a Primarch, but their main guy.
Hmm.
Which is odd because yeah, I'm getting through the End of the Death series, right? The last Siege of Terra books on audiobook.
You and
And
your
there's a lot.
reading.
Well, I'm listening, so there's not a
Okay.
lot of reading
Well, that's
involved
more
here.
than I do.
But there's a lot of Custodes stuff in this series, and
Right.
you forget there's no new Custodes after what the heresy, wherever they
Hmm.
stopped making them over
Hmm.
10,000 years ago in the current timeline. That's it.
Yeah.
So they're kind of an interesting faction in and of itself because what are they? I mean, they're really old, and this guy is even older. So the guy on the cover, if that's Valoris, he was around during the Unification Wars. Like when the
Hmm.
Thunder Warriors were around. So he could be 15,000, 20,000 years old, and it's just such a weird faction when you start digging that deep into it. It's pretty
Yeah, but
cool.
he
Pretty
doesn't look a
cool.
day over 14,000 though. I
Nah, he
mean,
looks
let's
great for his age.
yeah, really
Wow.
hydrating a lot.
So
Probably, I would think though
collagen.
when he's when he's jumping up on a rock, maybe his ankles pop a little bit, you know.
You think he makes old man noises like I do? Like, oh, get
But
up out of this chair.
the old man, I wonder, if you've got some of those guys, especially with Space Wolves, the ones that look a little older, when you get those tactical rocks, are they causing arthritis pains? The more
Oh
tactical
boy.
rocks, the more arthritis you have.
Go
We,
sciatica.
we're tackling the important questions.
Space Marine health.
Oh man, funny because it's true though.
Yeah, no
Whenever I
doubt,
roll out
bro.
of bed now, I'm like, oh, why does this hurt? It shouldn't hurt. Anyway, I digress. Okay,
Mm.
so back to what. Let's not talk about us. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
yeah, 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 yeah.
this guy's problems. He's the one with the back pain, not us,
Yeah.
of course.
It's
Yeah. So,
interesting because they're not fighting anybody on this cover, so there's no enemies there. So there's no
well, that's true.
there's no hints to something that maybe come. You know how
No.
they did get sneaky and put stuff in the artwork. You're like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what's
No, they're
that?
just shouting at the world on
Yeah,
this
they're
cover.
just
Which is fine. I
yeah.
I did find it funny. I'm gonna pull up the other image here. Going
Mhm.
back to the Battleforce box, I'm looking back there and looking at the terrain, and I'm looking at those buildings. They already have those. Those are ones that
I
that,
know.
that have already been released, but I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. Like, man, come on, guys, where's the terrain?
Where
I'm
is the terrain?
maybe I'm part of the 0.1% that'll actually buy the terrain, the really big Gothic buildings, because I wasn't
Mhm.
around in sixth and seventh edition where there's just Gothic buildings as far as the eye could see. That's what I want.
I
I want
know, man.
more skyscrapers. Give me a
I
big
get
tall building.
I get uber sad when I go on eBay and look for some of that stuff, and there's a lot of it out there that's not in print anymore. And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah, way too
that's
expensive.
way too expensive.
Yeah, well, that's the markup.
I
But
know.
anyway, cool. Excited for you with the
Mhm.
Custodes, and yes, even though I took the loss against them, it was against the Votan too. So that's my caveat, that they're not the
Yeah.
best combat patrol. However, to be
Like,
fair, it was never close. Like you were never in danger, and
I wasn't.
I I know, and it wasn't bad rolls either. It was just, no, I just got
Yeah,
beat, and that's okay.
yeah. I took a
That's all right.
bazooka to a knife fight that time.
It'll you did. It'll only happen once. Don't worry about it.
That's
All right.
right.
Let's move on now. Let's go on to the next model that was shown off, which they talked about orcs. We kept
Mhm.
wondering if they were going to show orcs. Was this going to be a thing that was really going to happen? And here you go. They showed off a big mech. The current big mech is, I didn't think it was that bad. The ones with the shock attack gun that they have
Mhm.
now doesn't look terrible, but this one is much more modern. Um, the one thing I'll say, two main observations. I don't currently have a big mech because the model previously just didn't do anything for me. This one looks cool. I'll probably pick this one
That was
up.
good.
But a couple of observations. One, actually three. So the first one, looking at his face, the default face that he has gives me more of a Lord of the Rings Tolkien orc
Yeah.
vibe. I don't know what it is. It's that where they're not yelling at the world like Mad Max. It's just kind of a
Yeah.
frown, you know, with the
That
with the
long chin.
ears. Yeah, long chin. It looks very
Mhm.
um Uruk-hai or something like that,
Mhm.
where it's Lord of the Rings ish. So for me, when I pick this model up, I won't be using that sculpt. I'll be using the one where it's screaming at
Right.
everybody, because that's how I picture all the orcs that are always just screaming and sprinting at everyone. The other observation that I have is the amount of mech. I mean, this he meets the word, big mech.
Yeah.
There's just so much crap all over this guy. There's just a ton of metal and weird contraptions and drills and springs and claws and wrenches and all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
I, I to me, it's almost too much. It reminds
Is
me
it too much?
of,
Yeah.
what is the movie The Labyrinth, the one that came out in the 80s,
Mhm.
and there's the girl go at one point takes the wrong turn and ends up in the junkyard, and there's that
Yeah.
puppet that has all the stuff all on top of their back, the big
Yes.
heap of trash. That's
Hmm.
kind of what this guy looks like. They took a wrong turn, they end up in the labyrinth dumpster, and he was over there with all this junk attached to him.
He's like a
It's
hardware
okay.
store.
Yeah, it also yeah, he is just a hardware store all by himself. But it almost looks like a kit bash, like, and
I, I
not
got
a
what you're
great one.
saying. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
But
weird. There are places it just doesn't quite flow right.
yeah, I'm
But
not. It still does the job, and this thing is
mhm,
supposed to be heavily mechanized, and it is.
mhm.
And so I like this model well enough. I did like the third thing I wanted to bring up, the little skull that's
Yeah.
smiling. Uh,
Pretty
I
cool.
like that one. That one was cool. So yeah, I'm enjoying the fact that they're coming out with new orc stuff. That's always fun for me. Um,
Mhm.
but here's a couple of the abilities that this is the Tractor Blasta, and I always like whenever they
Ooh, I
come
meant to
out with
apply.
new orc stuff and they show off any type of shooting. I always roll my eyes because the ballistic skill is a 5+. Like, come on. But that has the anti-fly, which I believe anti-fly 3+, is that you're still not hitting on threes, right? Or is that I thought the
Um,
anti-keyword, I'll have to look that up. It's
yeah,
either you're wounding on threes, or I want to say maybe it's hitting on threes.
I think you're
Either
hitting.
way, yeah, I think you're hitting on threes now that I'm thinking about that. So that's cool for taking out aircraft, but
Mhm.
there's not a lot of aircraft in 10th edition from what I've seen. So
No, but there are like jetpack guys. I mean,
true. I guess
you could take
yeah.
them out.
It's not just for aircraft. It's just for anything
Mhm.
that flies. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. I mean, pretty good. Strength 10, AP 2, and then damage D6+1. You only get one shot, but it's got a
Mhm.
36-inch range. So as long as you're shooting at maybe some kind of aircraft of some kind, pretty good range, hitting on a
Yeah.
3, and most likely wounding. Well, at least wounding on I would say 4s or 3s,
Mhm.
plus the AP2. It's not bad. It's just going to be something that you're going to shoot at a distance. So
Right.
um, cool model. I never had the big mech, so this is something new. Of course, the paint job looks really cool with
Yeah, it
the
does.
electric orb things on the back. That's just it. The electricity paint jobs always intimidate me, but they're not that hard. It's hard
Yeah.
to make them look really good. You have to blend it really well.
Mhm. But it looks
So
good. It's intimidating.
if you can pull it off, yeah. And then of course the yellow and black striped cords.
Yeah.
I would never do those well.
No.
they always
It's
they
just
always look just terrible. So
uh
anyway, I like this model. It's cool. Part of the I would say bigger news, at least for me,
mhm.
the Orks Battleforce box, which again, now that we've talked about it, does not include a lot of new models. In fact, the Big
Right.
Mac is the only new model. Everything else is old, including our buddy, our
Mhm.
friend, the Stompa. Man,
Yes.
I
I
I
know.
I
They
really
could have
wanted a
gone.
new one.
They could have done it, but they didn't. Uh,
You know, I may end up getting it just because it looks so derpy. Uh,
you don't have one, right?
no, I don't. And
So
then plus it's huge and it's going to take
yeah,
forever to paint.
yeah.
Oh man! And the thing that,
But
and I don't look at it and say, "Oh man, tremble before me." It's not threatening like a knight.
no.
This is an old grandma
Yeah.
ready with some guns that don't even look like the arms aren't even positioned in the right way. It doesn't look intimidating.
We cooked you some pancakes, honey.
Yeah, Mrs.
Come get.
Butterworth. Yeah.
Well, now, so if this Battle Force box is about like what the rest of them been in the 200, 230 range, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be enough of a discount as opposed to what the regular Stompa would cost by itself? And then you
Yeah,
get all this
maybe.
other stuff.
I mean, because the
I
regular
don't know.
Stompa, I want to say was it like it wasn't that expensive. I want to say it's like
Oh, okay.
120, 130 or something.
Okay.
but because there's not a ton to it. It's got the big
Mm-hmm.
skirt, for lack of a better term, but most of the detail is up top. And if you
Yeah.
look at some of the knights and things, that they've got their around the same amount of plastic on them. But
Fair
the
enough.
rest of the box is stuff I already have. I already have
Mhm.
90 boys, so this would be adding, I think, just 10 more.
Mhm.
So give me a 100 boys. Like I need more.
Mhm.
And then the Ludas, and then the Big Mac and a truck. It would have been nice to get a new truck.
Okay.
Not that the old truck model isn't bad.
Mhm.
I'm always a sucker for the vehicles. I would love to have more orc vehicles.
Yeah.
But for someone looking to start up an orc army, this is pretty good. It's a good start.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of boys, but then again, with 10th edition, there's not a ton of fighting anymore. It seems like
Right.
it's mostly shooting now. So now you've got the Ludas and a Stompa. We haven't seen stats for the Stompa. Historically, the Stompa's stats just don't justify the points. It's like
Yeah.
in the past, it's anywhere from like 700 to 900 points, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's
Ouch.
a giant model,
It's a night.
but it's exactly, but it doesn't have the stats of a knight.
Mm.
And looking at it now, it's also got the steamboat vibe to it with the
It
smokestacks.
does. It's a little
I
dated.
wish I
It's a
wish
little
I could.
dated.
Yeah, I wish I could love this thing. I
I
I
know.
just don't. It's
Fair.
difficult for
That's
me.
fair.
So, Steve, what are your thoughts on this Battle Force box? I know you're not an orc player, but
Mhm.
comparing it to the Custodes box from a value standpoint or variety and things like that, if you're a new player looking to either get into Custodes or orcs, which one maybe is the better option? Or it's subjective, right? Whatever better is depending on
Yeah.
what the
I
player's looking
I
for.
mean, if I were getting into orcs, this would not look bad to me. This would look pretty good to me.
Hmm.
If I had no models whatsoever. Because now the Stompa, can you carry infantry orcs in it?
Yeah,
Will it
it's a it's
actually,
a it's a transport.
so you kind of have two transports in a way, and you got some. I know that I doubt you're gonna fill out an army real quick with what's in there, except for the points of the Stompa, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Now that might be an Achilles heel to that box. Is like you put that on the table. I don't know how well you're gonna do. I mean, I don't know much about the orcs. It feels like you need more. It feels like you need more bodies to throw
Yeah,
at your
because I mean
opponent.
everything goes down fairly
Mhm.
quickly. They've gotten better. The orc boys are a lot tougher than they used to be, but it's still very much a horde army where you throw everything you can at it, rush up the field, and hope things explode, and then you
Yeah.
outlast the opponent. The problem with the Stompa boys, unless the Stompa is changing, and they are coming out with, they've officially announced the Orc Codex, which they said it would be in the spring, so maybe this
Mhm.
month, into this month, maybe. Um, but I'm wondering then if you bought this Battle Force box, especially if it's a new orc player, you buy the Battle Force box, your Stompa is going to be your centerpiece, and you're
Right.
going to put the orc boys either in the truck or in the Stompa, I guess, and then march this thing up the field. That's really your one trick pony.
Mhm.
You've got a really ugly pony, but
Yeah.
you got one trick pony. It's
Yeah.
almost like it's like watching a really like a cult classic movie. It's
Mhm.
so bad it's good, you know.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that they'll fix the stats on the Stompa to
Yeah.
make it viable. Because it needs to be expensive points wise in order to
Mhm.
justify how big it is. It just wouldn't make sense if this thing's only 400 points.
Mhm.
It's got to have some heft to it from a points perspective. So if the new Stompa maybe is like 600 or 700 points, then I don't know what they would do. They would have to really grant some kind of aura abilities for
Mm.
things around it, from uh,
Like a
a vehicle
toughness
type,
or save or something like that.
something like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know, and maybe the battle shock stuff,
Mhm.
because the knights have that where I was playing against our friend Bill, with his chaos knights, and they impose battle shock, and Battle Shock is hit or miss depending
Mm,
on the scenario and stuff. But I think if the Stompa had some Battle Shock features in addition to a few other traits, then all of a sudden it's a little more worth it. But because otherwise you're buying this Battle Force box and you got this big giant model and it
yeah.
dies very quickly and everything blows up and it's hilarious when it
Mm,
happens. But
right.
if you just bought the whole box, put it together, painted it, and then it blows up immediately, yeah,
That's sad.
that's nah, not great.
Would it be a better box if the Stompa wasn't in there? Everything else was the same, but maybe add another truck and maybe add some bikes or some other fast moving things. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
to
think
fill in the
they
points.
yeah, but they went for a very specific aesthetic with this Battle Force
Right.
box, and so Stompa Boys, I think is cool. I like
Yeah,
that.
that mech is
Um,
very looks
the
like it
mech
work
is
on that
going to
thing.
repair, right?
Mhm.
It's gonna repair the Stompa. It's gonna repair the truck. So there's some synergies there. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
it's not a good mix of models. And I do like the fact that one of the things I love about playing Orcs is that it gives you so many options. So that if you
Yeah.
don't want to play Red Ones Go Fasta and get in
Right.
vehicles and race up the board, you can take your time a little bit. It's a little more
Mhm.
difficult because of the ballistic skill. It's not great. And
Mhm.
Orc shooting is comically random, but that's one of the reasons I like them. So
Right.
I'm a little back and forth. I don't, I may get a Stompa one of these days. And if I do, we'll have some big celebration. I'll have to show it, take pictures. I'm like, look, I finally did it. But I just don't know where I'm going to put that thing. I think it's huge. It's bigger than most of the other models.
Yeah. That would take up a lot of room. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And then the big arms, I'd have to magnetize it, I guess.
Yeah. Tear it down.
Yeah. And that's the other problem is that I have to put it in a place of prominence to display.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then what I'm displaying is everybody's going to look at that. What is that?
Did you make this?
I made it in third grade, yes, for a science project.
Paper plates.
Oh boy, yep.
Uh,
Oh man. Well, anyway, so cool. I'm excited for new orc stuff. Anytime
mhm.
I see new orc things, I'm down. So we'll see where this goes. The next stuff that they talked about with the Warhammer World Anniversary was Age of Sigmar, specifically the gun. I'm not going to say it right. The Gunnar
Gunner.
brand,
Mhm. I think that's
the
right.
Oathbound Ken. These
Mhm.
models are actually from a Hammer and Bolter episode of Warhammer Plus. But Steve, as the Slaves to Darkness player here, what are your thoughts on these new models?
Yeah, I know our buddy Stu, he can definitely speak more to these because he is rapidly converting and making more Chaos Marauders and stuff
Yep.
into Dark Oath figures. But I think these look great. Um, I'm not. I have a small unit of Dark Oath Savagers from the Warcry box that can
Mm-hmm.
attach to my Slaves of Darkness. They're pretty good. They're more or less, just cannon fodder. They die easy, but they put on a good show. I think these models look really good though. They've done
Yeah.
so much to upgrade the aesthetic. They should play well. I think it'll be they'll get to probably play like a special unit. Like you couldn't take these as individuals and add them. You'll have to keep these all together.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of units that are kind of like that. Uh, I think the Kagra's Ravagers or something like that, or a four model unit. But boy, they have really stepped it up. They man, those look so good.
Yeah.
I think they did a great job, and I like that it's from one of their original, animation programs and all that stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I liked the blacksmith looking model, probably the best, just
Hmm.
because it's different. And
Hmm.
they continue to do a really good job with the poses with Age of Sigmar, I think. I'm always
Yep.
impressed with how they always look like they're getting ready to do something super cool and they're not just standing still.
Right.
I mean, these are, I say standing still, obviously they are, but they look like they either just got done doing something or they're getting ready to do something. It's
Yeah.
all about that anticipation. So just from an artwork standpoint, it tells a story to me
Yes.
when more so than some of the 40K models. And I'm not to disparage the 40K models because
Mhm.
they look good in their own right. Um, but I think it is interesting to see these models, especially the tie-in to Warhammer Plus.
Mhm.
Looking at I like the mounted riders. Anytime there's somebody on a horse, just looks
Yeah.
cool to me.
It looks really
And this
cool.
particular model, yeah. What about the Mohawk? Mohawk kind of goes along with the horse mane here,
Yeah,
you know.
I like mohawks. I like mohawks on
Now wait a minute.
chaos.
Okay, yeah, specifically on these models because you wouldn't want it on your Custodes. Is that what you're
W
saying?
Yeah, because this mohawk is grown. That mohawk is made.
Oh, that's true. That's a fair point. Fair point. I do.
You can
I
paint it
like the.
red.
Yeah,
You go all
you
punky.
could.
I love it.
You could. I like the skull
Mhm.
face on the horse. Is that a mask? Is that
Yeah,
what that is?
yeah. It's like,
So they put a. There's no way the horse is wearing that mask though. You think it would?
well, I don't know, man. You feed enough apples to a horse, you probably get it to do anything you want it to.
If you feed it enough apples, it'll wear a
Yeah.
skull mask for you. I
Here,
wish
boy.
my I wish my children would do that. If I give you enough apples, will you wear this skull mask around?
You
Um,
bet, Dad.
yeah, all right.
Mm.
Father of the year here. Yeah, so not to skip away from the Darkoath, I did before we move on. I did want to start talking a little bit about Warhammer Plus. Before we move on, I gotta mention the new gnomes that they showed
Mhm.
off for Blood Bowl. I know it's completely separate from the Age of Sigmar stuff. I just think it's hilarious. They had a little trailer for them and everything, and the goose
Oh,
out
the goose
there.
was cracking me up.
I just Blood Bowl continues to be a game that I think they use for comic relief half the time.
Yeah.
It's like, we're too serious. How about we come out with
Mhm.
some garden gnomes, for as a football team.
I didn't even know this existed. Like, I knew Blood Bowl existed, but I didn't know there was a
Yeah.
gnome team. I
Oh
think
man,
that's so funny.
it's great. I just think it's cool. And then they have the little. It's almost like a little spike on his hand.
Mhm.
Like what's that going to do? He's going to go after your kneecaps, you know. And
Yes.
he's got a little what's that? You got a goose with
A goose, a fox, a
uh,
badger,
with a helmet? Is it the goose have a helmet? I think I think so.
or or
What's on his
or like
head?
one of those, like, old-timey pilot hats, those, like, those
Yeah.
old-timey leather football helmets or something?
Oh man, I tell you what, I like the fact that they came out with gnomes for a Blood Bowl team. It cracks me
Yeah,
up. So
it's good stuff.
very cool. Well, for our next segment here, as just to kind of wrap up all of the Warhammer World Anniversary models, a pleasant surprise. I always like looking at
Mhm.
new stuff, and the Battleforce boxes are great. One of the common themes, and you pointed out this out to me, Steve, where we've seen some recent Warhammer Plus releases where they have tied in episodes of a Warhammer Plus, specifically Hammer and Bolter in this case, and come out with a squad or some miniatures from those Warhammer Plus shows. So I thought
Mm.
it would be a good opportunity to talk about where things are with Warhammer Plus. But what I'll get your take first. When they've taken models from Warhammer Plus and Hammer and Bolter, and there's a limited audience, of course, for
Yeah.
those that watch or subscribe to Warhammer Plus and actually watch the animations. But for those that watch like we do, do you think this is good? Do you think personally, I'm thinking it's almost like a Ninja Turtle or He-Man kind of cash in where they come out with the cartoon and then they release the action
Yeah.
figures for it.
Yeah.
But then again, the sculpts are amazing, especially for the I can't remember the names of them, the Callus
Callous
and
to Toll.
yeah, yeah. Those sculpts are
Yeah.
ridiculously great. So
Yes.
as long as the quality is high, I'm down with it. But what are your thoughts with these Warhammer Plus TV show tie-ins?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, I wish there was the 40K stuff's a little bit on the generic side. I mean, you don't really need some special like the Blood Angels. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that the models already exist. You can paint them up and you
Yeah.
can do what you want to. This is really awesome because they have the Black Talon
Mm-hmm.
um, tie-in as well. And I briefly looked through and what rules I could find. I mean, they're going to be very playable because they're selling them as 5-man units or whatever. So I think they'll be able to bring that in. I read coming soon, I think the next White Dwarf, they're going to bring some Rogue Trader stuff in. Now, that doesn't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
tie to the animations, but we don't know what they're coming out with yet. There's a Rogue Trader game. I mean, we might be able to predict that there's a Rogue Trader animation coming or something like
Yeah.
that because you're going to
That'd be
be able to
cool.
use. Oh, that'd be awesome. And you're going to be able to use some of those, like the Voidsmen at Arms and the Navy Breachers from boarding actions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
going to write some rules for them for combat patrol, which is going to be awesome.
Yep.
So this is good. And I mean, we've said it so many times. The AOS models are just like way, way on a new level compared to the 40K models, just because they can throw all that individualism
Yeah.
into them. They're not rank and file kind of things or soldiers or whatever you want to look at it. So they all can have you can make every one of them a little bit different. And they're doing a really good job with that. And I like the tie-in. I just love it because it bakes in your lore and it bakes in some you have some agency with them. You're like
Mm-hmm.
kind of tied to them emotionally because you watched the show or something. I think that's neat.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I see, and I brought up the Ninja Turtles and He Man, and
Yeah.
when we were kid GI Joe, and I was bringing all that stuff up, like that. It was so cool as a kid to watch the cartoon,
Hmm.
to watch He Man, and then have all my action figures there in front of me. They weren't
Hmm.
dolls; they were action figures. Very
That's right.
very big distinction. Um, but I had all that stuff in front of me while I'm watching the cartoon, and you could reenact stuff. Now, I'm not
Hmm.
saying that I paint models and well, we kind of reenact, right? Yeah, pew, pew, and we're rolling dice. That's completely
That's right.
different than playing with toys. But I think it's cool where they tie those in to give it some personality. I remember watching Pariah Nexus, for example,
Hmm.
which is I thought fantastic Warhammer Plus show, and all about the Necrons and the Sisters of Battle. I think that was right.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and they had those Deathmark, the sniper guys,
Hmm.
and they had Illuminor, Caesarus on there.
Yep.
I that to me gave it so much more depth. So I don't have any death marks in my Necron army,
Hmm.
but as soon as I saw those guys, I'm like, man, these guys are sweet. Now, I don't know if they actually are that great on the tabletop. I've seen some people roll with them and to
Hmm.
varying degrees of success. And then now I'm starting to think like, what if they did an animation with the Stompa in it? Would that and it
Does that
actually
change your
sounded
mind?
yeah, would it actually sound like a grandma when it comes out there? Like an orc grandma?
Ah.
But I mean, I like the fact that they're tying in the Warhammer Plus shows. I
Mhm.
think that's cool. The bigger question, I think, or at least on our minds, is whether or not Warhammer Plus it is still running at the same clip that it was last year. And my opinion, they've really started to slow down on the
Yeah.
content. I mean, they showed off recently this new Broken Lance show
Yep.
where it's all about the knights, and the trailer it looked
Oh, it
great.
looks
I thought
really
that
cool.
yeah, the animation looks like a video game trailer. It doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily have any unique art style or anything super special, I would say, but it
Right.
did it looked like a video game trailer, and that's
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing. It's just it is what it is.
Mhm.
And I didn't get like really excited about this show, but I wasn't looking at it and saying, "Well, I'll never watch that." No, I'll check it
Mm.
out. But
Right.
it didn't get a response from me like Pariah Nexus did,
Mhm.
or the Angels of Death stuff. Any of that. That was all great. Even the Hammer and Bolter, the Interrogator. Those were all very unique type experiences. This just looks like something that I would expect to come out of Warhammer Plus.
Yeah, and I like it. I wanna watch it and, and we'll dive into it a little bit. I think knowing that that's out there and coming, if I didn't have the subscription and knowing what I watched before, I'd be a little sad. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe I should re-up my subscription so I could see this.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I was actually fairly defensive for GW and their IP when they
Yeah.
started kind of stripping the fan made stuff away.
Mhm.
I loved a lot of the fan made stuff. Some of it was not good, but that's fan made stuff. That's okay, man. I mean, it's cool.
We make
Um,
fan-made stuff.
we sure do, and it's fantastic. Um,
Top
but
notch.
but I wanted something to replace that in wholesale. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, we're taking that away. We're kind of making these creators stick to IP law, which is perfectly within their right. Copyright law is important.
Mhm.
Um, but I wanted something to to
Yeah.
fill that gap, and I just haven't. There's been a lot of good series, but I didn't want to get too hyped up about this because I'm like, well, is it going to be like the Tau series and be 3 or 4 episodes and then
That's what this looks like. This doesn't
run
this
away?
doesn't this doesn't look like to me it's gonna be some,
Hmm.
multi-season type of thing. It's gonna be three episodes and done.
Right.
Um, but maybe not. I mean, Pariah Nexus, it was more of a shorts type thing, bite-sized chunks,
I
and
think it's
then
coming back.
yeah, it,
Uh,
it is, and that's why
yeah.
there's a season two, if you will,
Yeah.
whenever
Yeah.
the season starts. But um, I don't know about this. I think this is going to be a one shot deal where
Hmm.
it's here and gone. I wish they would do more interrogator type
Yeah, I do too.
series. Easier said than done, because those
Hmm.
things take a lot of production and the writing I think is pretty good. Um, but I haven't seen the content. They've done more battle reports, which are
Yeah.
fine. The themed battle reports are always great. I always like watching
Right.
those. And then they've got the masterclass stuff, the Citadel, the painting masterclass. Um, and I think I've only watched one or two of those because I look
Yeah.
for more in painting videos. I typically look for more of the personality because
Hmm.
there's tons of personalities all over YouTube that we have our own painting videos, for example.
Yes.
And everybody's got their little flair on it. Most of our videos are quick.
Hmm.
We're busy. All of us are really busy, full-time jobs, families, the whole deal. And I don't have time to spend 40 hours on a miniature. So,
Hmm.
Lee's done some recent videos that are great, and it's all about challenging yourself, getting different tones and undercoats, but doing it all really quickly. Like here, you can
Right.
paint this model in 20 minutes. Awesome, right?
Right.
It isn't. If you zoom in on it, are you going to see the veins in the model's eyeballs? No, but that's not the point. The point is to do
Yeah.
it quickly to make it look decent when you're playing with it on a tabletop. So everybody's going to have their little flair on it. The Citadel Masterclass ones, though, from what I've seen, and I'm interested in your take, from what I've seen, they're a little kind of robotic, or they're very zoomed in on one particular thing, which is not bad. It's just a little different.
Hmm. So I kind of go back to when I first got in the hobby and I was first learning to paint everything. And I still love these videos. I still love the old ones, the black background where it was
Yeah.
Duncan and Peachy. And those were the best videos, I thought.
Yeah.
Um, they taught you 3 levels of painting. You could do, battle ready, whatever the middle level, and then parade ready and all that.
Yeah.
Teach you how to kind of progress it just a little bit, and a little bit. But everything was achievable. Everything was very attainable. And
Yeah.
even though it was in a black background, I swear I think they were always in black t-shirts. Um, but they each had their own personality to it.
Yeah.
And you could just tell like Duncan was pretty serious about it. Peachy's on the jokester side of things. But
Hmm.
you always felt, especially if you're just getting in the hobby, you could attain what they were doing, at least
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the first tier of it. Now, the name masterclass applies or implies that there's going to be a next level of
Yeah.
whatever. And yes,
Yeah.
this is a subscription, but I love Louise Sugden. I thought she was very bubbly and bright and
Hmm.
brought a lot to it. And I know people leave companies and for various reasons, and that's not what this is about. But she left, and I've never seen these other folks, and it's cool bringing more talent and all
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But all the other stuff was free. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube. They put it on their own Warhammer channel. They still have the videos that pop up when
Mm-hmm.
new models come out. They'll always tell everybody how to paint them and stuff. But I feel like it's missing. It's just not. There's nothing on it that's all that, because they still hold true to the Citadel method, the Citadel paints, the Citadel
Well,
formula.
I mean, they
I
have
know they
to.
have to. They get, yeah,
Yeah.
it's their brand, and I get it.
Yeah.
So, to further that, Peachy has his own channel now, and
Mm-hmm.
he's moved on, even from the painting phase or whatever he was
Yep.
doing.
Yep.
He's doing his own thing, and I have watched the 3-part series on Space Marines that he's put out. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's like the old days to me, and it's so achievable. And he's doing such a good job. He's like messing up, but you can tell it's scripted mess ups,
Yeah.
and it's so, and I watch those, and I'm
Real.
like,
Uh,
it's real, and it
yeah.
makes me realize I'm putting way too much time into some of the stuff that I'm doing. Like, there's no reason why I shouldn't be doing what he's teaching now on his new channel.
But
That's
he's not.
missing.
Yeah, he's not calling it masterclass. He's not
No,
calling
you're
it
right. You're right. You're right.
expert painting.
Hmm.
And I think that's, maybe the older I get, the more that I realize that there's an audience for everyone.
Hmm.
There's going to be something for everybody. And the masterclass stuff, I think they have moved away from let's show you how to paint a space
Hmm.
marine and a very approachable, kind personality, bubbly, at
Yeah,
times,
sure.
or kind of making a joke here and there, less serious. And
Hmm.
the implied, as you said, the masterclass thing makes it much more focused, and this is how to level up your painting. So
Right.
they have isolated, folks that are not necessarily beginners, right?
Hmm.
They bought their first box a long time ago. They have multiple armies now, and they painted tons of models. And now we're going to show you how to add these crazy highlights to a
Hmm.
sword. So that's cool. There is an audience for that, and a lot of people love the masterclass stuff. But I think, to your point, they've lost some of the personality and flair
Right.
that made those videos be like, hey, I can do this. you
Hmm.
know if I mean, Nick's done it too, Nick Baton. If Nick can do it, if Louise can do it, if Peachy can do it, and Duncan was always at a different level, right? His
Right.
painting was just crazy, and so I always look at him and I think, oh man, I don't know, man. I know you make it look easy. I was
Hmm.
following one of his tutorials recently. I was painting a Star Drake for my
Hmm.
Stormcast Eternals, and that model's pretty old. I mean, that, and the video's old, back when
Okay.
Duncan was at GW, and so his tutorial was what I was using. And some of the stuff, they just did it in such a way that it was like, oh, okay, step one, I do this,
Yeah.
step two, I do this, and they did a great job. And I think the masterclass ones do that, but they have gotten away from, here's how to paint the entire model, and now it's how to level up your painting and just do this one little piece of it. So I is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, you and I have two different paint styles. I get lost in the weeds, and you're very, specific, and like, this is to get them on the table. I want a
Yeah.
good paint job, and I want to challenge myself, but
Hmm.
my ultimate goal is to get them on the table so they look good while I'm playing.
Right.
I will get in like I'm trying to do something that's above my pay grade 100%. But I'll
Yeah.
try different things. But do you look to these tutorials to see how you're going to paint your models? Do you go like, I because you're pretty close to box art kind of style.
Oh
You
yeah.
you
I
like
mean,
you like to
I'm
follow that.
98% box art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but do you go to social media, and do you go to these YouTube channels? Do you go to
Yeah.
masterclass and
I
sort of put that
I
in your
don't
mind? Step one, two, three.
yeah.
This is how I'm going to go about it.
I don't go to masterclass very often because
Yeah.
they don't show something start to finish. So what I
Mm, good
do,
point.
and this may be A lot of people don't like painting by the box art. I mean, I've seen several. I think there's one YouTube or Instagram account out there that's like never the box art or something
Right.
like that. So you know, everybody's gonna have their thing. I'm not trying to make it stand out. I'm just trying to make it look good, like you said,
Yeah.
for the
Mhm.
tabletop. So when I got my Star Drake, for example, and I assembled it, the very first thing I did was go to YouTube because I could look at the pictures on the website,
Mhm.
and because I'm going to paint by numbers, you know,
Right.
effectively, that's fine. I can rotate the model and kind of see what I want to do. Um, but if I want to know step by step how to paint a wing, I'm not going to masterclass and looking that up. I'm going to YouTube more for the search engine, you know,
Gotcha.
than anything. I just want to be able to type in Star Drake and it give me what I
Mhm.
want. I You could probably do some of that with math. I don't even know if the search engine is that great for
Yeah, I
Warhammer
don't know
Plus.
either.
That's not really technology is not necessarily Games Workshop's strong suit.
No, it's not.
But, you know, I mean, bless their hearts, right? As we say in the
Right.
South. So I, I go to YouTube to see, and I'll watch a video, I'll pause it and rewind it, go back. Like, okay, I need to paint the wings, especially the wings is what I was looking
Mhm.
for help on. So I've been going to YouTube and looking up videos on how to paint my models. Um, but what's funny is for someone like me is that I'm not watching a video where someone has gone off the away from the box art and they're
Right.
painting it this in this unique way because that's not helpful to me. I
Gotcha.
want to see how to achieve the effect on the box art because
Mhm.
typically that's like the heavy metal, you know, painters, the golden demon stuff. I can't achieve that, but I'm going to try to
Right.
get close.
Well, and I've come to a realization, like I said, I don't wanna keep hounding Peachy, but, yeah, I watched those Space Marine ones and that he did, and I think about it like, I've 100% waterboarded myself with content when it comes to painting, because
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll pick a little bit here, I'll pick a little bit there. Half the time, I almost never go in with a plan because I don't actually know what it's gonna look like when it's done,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it is really backfired on me a few times. You can always fix it. You can repaint it. You can strip it
Sure.
off. You can fix it. It may not be your vision, and
Yeah.
I've done that to myself. However, it, his videos now they're fast. They've got slightly advanced techniques, but they're not. But they
Yeah.
look advanced, and it just it helps you flow in mistakes. And I was like, man, I need to just let go. I need to like quit trying to replicate
Mhm.
15 different content creators, little bits of things that I love, and try to
Mhm.
put that on a 32 millimeter model because it's just not attainable. I mean, you can't do it.
Yeah,
And
I agree. I think that, you know, kind of getting back to, I know we talked about the masterclass stuff, but there's really that's not the crux of Warhammer Plus. Typically,
right.
the animations and the TV shows are what get the most press. Um,
Hmm.
and so if we're grading them, if you will, if we're grading them on that, then I would say it to me it was a strong A
Hmm.
for the first year, even though some people wanted more than that. I thought the cadence and release was good. Now I think they've settled in a little bit.
Hmm.
Maybe there's budget cuts. Maybe there's a lot of layoffs happening in the tech industry right now. So maybe they've had some layoffs that just aren't
Right.
announced, and they don't have as many people that are making animations. So as much as the fans want them, it's just not financially possible for them right now.
Very
Even though
true.
they're a huge company, it doesn't necessarily mean they can just, you know, print money and make whatever they want.
Hmm.
So maybe there's some stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. I'm glad they're continuing to put money in it with,
Hmm.
you know, with the Broken Lance show. That's cool. I'd love to see more, of course, but you know, it is what it is. I think the other features of Warhammer Plus, like the app, they have
Hmm.
improved the app with the command bunker, um, where you can, if you're listening to this and you've never used the app, especially the new version, now you can. It's a better tabletop companion now. Let's say so
Yes.
you can build your list. You go into the command bunker and everything's available to you like it should be. Um, Still doesn't work for combat patrol, which is a little irritating. I wish they had a combat patrol command bunker.
Yeah.
You know?
And the only thing that saves it is, you're not flipping through a bunch of stuff in a combat patrol anyway. But
Yeah,
yes, that the bunker is very nice and streamlined, and it would be nice.
It would. Well, I don't know how difficult it is, but it
Yeah.
would still help, especially when I'm having to go back and forth. If I'm playing a brand new army, combat
Hmm.
patrol, which I would say a lot of people probably are, flipping back
Hmm.
and forth to learn the rules and the stratagems and the special abilities. That's using that app, and it'd be cool if they had the command bunker feature. But
I agree. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So, I mean, overall, I would say I still am enjoying Warhammer Plus. I still
Yeah.
like it.
I'm
And
not getting rid of it anytime soon or
no,
replacing it with anything else. So,
and you get the free model of the year. So
hmm,
there's enough perks for me right now to continue purchasing Warhammer Plus. I do wish they had a few more animations, maybe once a quarter or something, to come out with something new. Maybe we'll see more.
maybe they're pumping that talent and focus into collaborating with the Amazon stuff coming out. We could
Maybe that's where everybody went. They're all working for
maybe
Henry Cavill now.
we could give them a pass if that's just earth shattering
Yeah,
and mind blowing.
And they need our pass. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. The
Well,
Dadhammer stamp.
yeah, the gavel. Well, that is all that we have for the Warhammer
Hmm.
Plus segment and the overall show today. Lots of cool stuff. Once again, hopeful to see more new models in the weeks to come. Thank you so much for listening, as always. For Steve and myself, I hope you have, or I hope you're excited about the new releases and the new stuff coming out. And definitely hit us up if you're interested in the Stompa for sure. I want to know, is anybody getting this guy, or maybe it's just me thinking about it and putting it on
Show
the
us some
shelf.
Stompa paint jobs
Oh,
online.
gosh. Oh, boy. Or some mohawks if you've since
Yes,
we've
give me
talked
some
about those today.
Mohawks.
Anyway, well, Steve, thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your service, sir. I hope everyone listening has a great week, and we will catch you next time on Dadhammer. See you, everyone.
Bye, guys.